Sup everyone, it's really Timmy B and welcome to the EBL Weekly Roundup. As I said, I am ItsReallyTimmyB, joined by my co-host Infernomen, aka Landon, aka Infernomen. Landon, buddy, we had a great week one, but how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, Mr. MVP of the Dynamax division, sitting right here in this very awesome Respawn 110 chair. Please sponsor me. Feels good having an MVP. Feels really good.
I also had the Respawn 110 chair. I went with green. What color did you go with?
I went with blue because blue's my favorite color.
And green is my favorite color, so that definitely makes sense. But enough about Respawn chairs, but definitely go check out Infernomen, sponsor him, then we'll get Timmy B signed up in 2023. But anyways, Infernomen, we have a jam-packed episode here. But before we hop into talking about some of the week one matchups, our viewers have to do a couple of things. And that first thing is to like this video, hit that thumbs up to like this video. Number two is subscribe to not only this channel for the roundups, power rankings, and maybe some other videos that are kind of brainstorming with us. Subscribe to all the coaches as well, maybe, you know, your roundup posts. So do those things, and it's been a party. All right, I know, Landon, we have a bunch of games to talk about. I just want to say congratulations. The one game that we were opposite on, you did win, so that gave you a predictions record of 5-1. I went 4-2, but I will still take that. Are you ready to hop into the first matchup?
Oh yeah, you know it.
All right, so the first matchup that we talked about and the first matchup on the schedule in our little group chat was the San Diego Sylveons against the Indiana Igglybuffs. The Igglybuffs won with a +4 score. Wrote down a couple of notes here. The first blood actually went to Tara and the Sylveons, so a very good start for them. And that's kind of when, you know, things kind of happened and the tides kind of turned. A huge thing, absolutely huge moment was when that Scald did get the burn on the Leafeon, and then Tara went for a Swords Dance to try to cancel that out. Unfortunately, Bob gave a huge power hit to take out that Leafeon. And that was pretty much it for the Sylveons. The rest was just an easy breeze for the Igglybuffs. What were your thoughts from this matchup?
The notes that I have, again, I wrote that Primarina burns Leafeon, so you know we got that covered. Bob, I tend to notice that earlier he switched out a lot, which also goes towards Tara, because a big thing that I took note of is that often what would happen is this ongoing cycle where Bob would send out Scissor to fight. I can't remember who he sent it out to fight. So Tara would send out Chandelure. Obviously, a fire type is super effective, quad super effective against a bug steel type. So she sent out Chandelure. Now, the thing that I think could have been changed easily is the fact that, you know, the first time, I kind of get it. I'd probably make the same mistake. Second time, it's like the saying, fool me once, shame on me, fool me twice, shame on you, or whatever. Fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. I said that wrong. Anyways, it kept on happening where she'd use Flamethrower, not expecting him to switch out to the Primarina. And that's what I kind of tend to notice, that she kept doing that. And I don't remember her exact moveset for Chandelure, but I think I'm sure she had more than one attacking move, one that wasn't fire type. I think she might have had Shadow Ball, if I remember correctly, but I don't know. If I were in that situation, if there were ever a small chance that he wasn't sending out the Scissor, I'd still go for Shadow Ball, because while, you know, it wouldn't have done as much, I'd see if he'd finally decide to stay in. And, you know, Primarina resists fire, so Flamethrower, you know, keep on doing that. Not the best plan, but other than that, I think that Tara did well for her first match. Unfortunately, Bob just ended up coming out on top. He also never Dynamaxed. Am I right about that? He never Dynamaxed?
I don't believe so, but he didn't need to. So yeah, I mean, that's huge to get a win, and especially be +4 without Dynamaxing.
Yeah, that makes two people in the league that, you know, I mean, I don't know if Bob dislikes Dynamaxing per se. I don't know if he mentioned it, but I know that Derek doesn't like Dynamaxing. You know, they're besties, so it makes sense. And I also wanted to mention that Tara's Kyogre also barely survived a Power Whip, which was also very awesome to see. But that's all I got for notes on Tara and Bob.
Yeah, same. I mean, I wrote down a couple of notes for each battle, and it's funny that you mentioned with switching out, because especially with this competitive, and as you know, as the coach of the Iowa Incineroar, you do need to find that perfect balance of maybe switching out for a couple of consecutive moves versus trying to get some damage or predicting the switch out. So definitely something that maybe Tar needs to improve on with the San Diego Sylveons, but a great first matchup for both of them. Even though we see +4, it was still a great battle for the San Diego Sylveons. And now moving to our next matchup, Landon, we had the Akron Axios from our friend Isomorphic going up against the defending champion, the Miami Dragon Knights, coached by Guanako Gaming, of course. Dragon Knights pull out victorious with a +3. This was a battle that kind of went both sides. We saw Isomorphic and the Axios go up to an early lead, mainly because of the Urshifu taking out a couple of the Pokemon there. A huge moment for the Miami Dragon Knights, which a lot of people thought that it could have been a week 1 loss for the defending champions. Brings in Charizard. Urshifu goes for Surging Strikes. Charizard misses the Air Slash and then gets taken out 1 hit, can't do any damage. When I saw that, I was like, Axios got this, baby. And basically that's what happened. The Urshifu did Dynamax and Gigantamax, but then Guanako still had it. The Miami Dragon Knight still had that Zarude in his back pocket. Came in with Sludge Wave a little bit, came in with the Zarude and Sludge Wave from the Eternatus. At the end, it was just too much power from the Miami Dragon Knights at the end with his remaining 2 or 3 Pokemon. And then also, an early play in the game from the Akron Axios was the Crobat versus Lycanroc. Isomorphic was kind of debating if he would be a little bit faster. Kind of forgot that there was a Cell Rock, which is a priority move from the Lycanroc to take out the Crobat. So maybe if he played that differently, maybe the battle could have gone a completely different way. But those were my couple of notes, was that Urshifu was amazing and Pog. But at the end of the day, that Zarude and Eternatus were just too much power for his remaining Pokemon.
What I have here is that there was a little bit of a back and forth at the beginning of the match.
Yeah.
Them going back and forth, a lot of switching out with the Crobat and the Lycanroc, such things as that. When Iso brought out the Crobat for the last time, Guanako switched out to Lycanroc. He ended up getting the Clutch Cross Poison. It's kind of weird to say poison twice in a row, but he ended up poisoning the Lycanroc. The Lycanroc ended up going down after Lycanroc had taken out the Crobat, so they kind of took each other out, which was pretty cool. I believe the first Mon taken out was the Gastrodon on Iso's team, which was due to the Whimsicott, another Mon that ended up going back and forth. Yes, that was the first blood. I do remember that. So yeah, like Timmy said, it was very intense, and there was a moment where we thought that maybe Guanako would lose, which was very scary for me as a good friend of Guanako's. But, I was just like, oh no. Is Guanako going to lose this, especially with the Urshifu being out? Because Urshifu, I gotta say, is the best Mon that Iso has on his team. When we mentioned Urshifu last week in the roundup, we meant it. Urshifu is not a Mon to mess around with. So, very, very difficult to see where it was going to go from there. But as soon as the Eternatus pulled out and Urshifu was gone, the last 3 months on Iso's team probably weren't the best to defend and try to keep that win going for Iso. So unfortunately for Iso, he ended up losing, and Guanako's Eternatus pulled out on top. But just as I had said last week, Urshifu and Eternatus were the 2 biggest threats. The biggest threat on each team were those 2, and they're both very, very good legendaries. So probably, besides my own, this was probably my favorite match to watch. I liked the back and forth in it. It was very, very exciting. So congrats to Guanako on your win again. Your Eternatus is very scary to not only me, but a lot of people in the league. And Iso, good luck to you next week.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is surprising now, I'm just looking at the teams right now, is that Guanako's team, the Miami Dragon Knights, has 5 Pokemon weak to fire, and Iso did not bring the Blacephalon in this battle, so definitely an interesting decision, but I think the Axios are going to be a power here for the rest of the league. I mean, almost taking down the defending 2-time champion in week 1 of Season 3. That was definitely a fun battle to watch. And then the final matchup in the Mega Division, the Detroit Luxrays take down the Redwood Meowsland, and we both got this one wrong. So we went 2-2 in the Mega Division for our Week 1 predictions. And basically, the Luxrays went up +5, and the only notes that I wrote was Salamence and Dragon Dance. Hold on, excuse me. Let me pull up the team. The Redwood Meows had out the Talonflame, which was named Charizard. Very interesting name for a Talonflame. Max brought out the Salamence and was like, all right, he's probably going to use Brave Bird because he was in red hell, so that'll take him out. I can survive a Brave Bird. He's like, let me get off a free Dragon Dance, and then that was it. Just +5 MVP from the Mega Division this week, and the Detroit Luxuries get a much-needed win after a very, very disappointing Season 2, even getting swept a couple of times. This must have felt really good for Max. He warned us in the comment section, which, by the way, everybody comment everything. He warned us in the comment section, so this was a great win for the Luxuries, and excited to see if this momentum carries them in week 2.
Yeah, so what I had is that Max started with Shuckle instead of Yveltal. You know, if you guys were around Season 1, you know Max always started with Yveltal, and, you know, that ended up not being so good for him. Obviously, Shuckle is an ideal thing to start with.
And it's hard to start off with Yveltal when you don't have Yveltal on your team.
Yeah, well, sorry. It's the Flying Dark, man. Come on, I meant to say Moltres, okay? Forgive me. If Ace can call his Talonflame Charizard, I can call Galarian Moltres Yveltal. Anyways,
I'll allow it.
Anyways, so as I had thought, Ace did start with the Mushroom, the Amoonguss. And my favorite play of that match, I gotta say, is I contacted Max this morning. I asked him about it. I said, was this your plan? Did you know that he was going to try to put your whole team to sleep, as Guanako had told me previously, or did you just go with your gut and do this? And he said that he just went with his gut in this situation. He yawned the
Amoonguss and then protected.
Yes, then protected when Amoonguss used Spore, which is a big play, not only because, you know, he dodged sleeping while putting another Mon to sleep, but grass types can't be put to sleep by very many moves, because a lot of moves that put Mons to sleep are grass type, and as we know, those moves don't affect grass types themselves, so it was very, very good that he managed to get that. And, you know, calling that the biggest play is pretty, you know, meaningful with the way that Max won this match, right? Because with that Moxie Salamence, I know that all too well from last season. It just completely destroyed Ace's team. And I kind of picked this up from, I mean, it's not really important because Max didn't end up using his whole team because of how the match went, but actually it is important. It is important because on the layout he had Blaziken where Roserade was, and Roserade actually was the one that took out Ace's Talonflame. It was the only Pokemon that took out something that wasn't Salamence. So if he initially meant to bring Blaziken, probably would not have done that well against the Talonflame with a Blaziken. But Max, if your intention was to bring Blaziken and you brought Roserade instead, you got lucky with that. That's really, really awesome. And also the good RNG with Salamence waking up as soon as Ace switched out to Dracozolt. That was really, really awesome too.
Yeah, absolutely. And definitely don't hang your head if you're Forsaken Ace in the Redwood Meows. Once you get a couple of Moxies going, some Dragon Dance with the Salamence, not too many teams would have survived that too well. So congratulations.
I know that.
Yeah, you do know that. So congratulations to Max and the Detroit Luxuries. Redwood Meows have another tough matchup in week 2. We'll get to those predictions later. But that wraps up the Mega Division. And now, are you ready to move on to the Dynamax Division?
Oh, yeah.
All right, well, let's do it. The first matchup that we talked about, and the first matchup that was on the schedule, of course, was the Atlanta Braviary going up against the TJ Gengar newcomer Latin Luigi, who's very good with VGC, did an excellent job with this battle, taking down the commissioner, a.k.a. Matty Ice, a.k.a. Stone Family 64, coach of the Atlanta Braviary. The TJ Gengar were +3, and I don't want to say this was over from the beginning, but this was kind of over from the beginning, as we all expected the Atlanta Braviary to start off with Kartana, get off maybe a Swords Dance or two, expecting a setup. Luigi said, nope, I'm going to go kind of opposite of that. I'm going to go with Lucario. I'm going to use Vacuum Wave, priority, super effective stab move. Takes out the Kartana, and then you could see it on both sides. Luigi was like, all right, sweet, I'm probably going to win this. And Matty Ash was like, all right, I lost this pretty much. So that was my notes from that. Other notes was, yeah, that Kartana. And it's just one of those things when you have a plan like that and then it doesn't happen. Plan B was okay, but it wasn't that great for the Atlanta Braviary. The Volcarona surviving the Power Gem from Starmie was huge on the for the TJ Gengars as well. And then at the end, that Trick Room Gengar, he said, hey, look, I know Matty Ice's team was going to be all fast, all speed, so let me just not worry about speed on this Gengar. Still a relatively fast Pokemon. He's like, let me train up some other things for this battle. Let me set up a Trick Room. I know I'm going to be faster, especially with that Arcanine at the end. He's like, you can't use extreme speed. I'm a ghost. And then also got to give the weekly Starmie shout out. Starmie did great with getting a kill for sure on that Indeedee with Surf, and then almost taking out that Volcarona. Maybe if it was a high roll, maybe it would have taken out. Worst case, a crit definitely would have taken it out. So those are my notes from the match. These are going to be two powerhouses. Would definitely not be surprised if both of these teams made the playoffs. But what were your thoughts and your notes from this Braviary versus Gengar?
So, for Matt and Luigi, I have some stuff here. The match decided is pretty much as soon as Lucario took out Kartana. While Matt did put in a lot of work, Matt does tend to focus on specific months if they do pretty well for his team. And the fact that Kartana is on the logo, he kind of had a lot of big-headedness put into that Kartana. And that's not a diss towards Matt, it's just, how things have been. I'm kind of not surprised that he put a lot of trust into that Kartana. Obviously not as much as somebody else could, but I mean, as soon as the Kartana got OHKO'd by Lucario, I couldn't see Matt really coming back, just because the rest of his team was good, and like I said, it put up a fight, and Luigi didn't absolutely destroy Matt. I think the match was pretty much decided as soon as that Kartana went down. You could see a little bit of color drain from Matt's face when that happened. So
it was funny when he was like, no way he was faster. Then he looked up vacuum wave. You could see like his soul just left his body when he was like, oh, it's a priority move.
Yeah. Also, when Luigi played Roost against Arcanine when it was Dynamax, that was a good play. The fact that his, Mandibuzz was at full HP and he knew that it was coming, so he decided to get rid of the flying type by using Roost. Didn't really come into play too much, but I mean, still, I thought that was pretty cool. The Volcarona lived Power Gem to finish off Starmie, and it was a crit, so that's pretty cool that a 4-time super effective move, even though it's not stab, still was not enough to kill Volcarona, and it ended up taking out the Starmie with a crit, which the crit wasn't really needed, but it was pretty cool that it got it, plus we know how much Matt hates getting crits on his Mons. And the Trick Room Gengar took out the Weavile threat, which we know Weavile was on the last season's logo, so it's not a mon to mess around with, so that was pretty cool as well. And then personally from Matt, something that he wanted me to mention that ties in with Tara's match with Bob is that this week, week number 2, the upcoming week, Matt fights Bob and Tara fights Luigi, so the married couple will be getting revenge for their partners this week, which is pretty cool if I do say so myself. So
we call that a 1-2 switcheroo.
Yeah, let's see if the married couple gets revenge for their partners or not. Or maybe one of them does and the other doesn't. Let's see how this week goes. I'm really excited.
I'm excited for it as well. And the Mega Division had some great matchups. Next one was the one that we were opposite on. The Kentucky Kinglers up against the Essex Espeons across the sea. Espeons pull out the victory, so Landon, you were correct on that one. +3. And this really came down to the Espeons had a great combat for the Rain team, specifically Comfy, and definitely could have been in the runs for MVP had he not kind of just let it die, because it was +4 with the kills with Triage, which for those of you who don't know, it gives healing moves a priority, which Derek did not know about, so that was a huge reason why. And when you have a Rain team and you have a priority grass move that also heals, Draining Kiss for the Palkia as well, Espeons had this in the bag the entire time. Definitely, if you guys haven't subscribed to Poke Page, make sure you do, because when Pelipper came in, set up the Rain, he got on an umbrella, he got on some a rain jacket and stuff. Now, normally inside Landon, opening up an umbrella inside is bad luck, but luck was on the Espeon side in this battle. So those are couple of my notes was umbrella, LOL. Then when it got sunny, he put on some shades, turned on the brightness of his phone. But yeah, it really all came down to he could handle that well. Also a good move. He said he was going to bring in Mew to start, but then he switched it for Toxapex at the last second. I think that helped at least just getting that toxic spikes up. Almost all of Derek's Pokemon got poison. Not toxic, but poison. So that was a big help. And then at the end of the day, it came down to, well, I got a Rillaboom, you have an Omastar, so I think Rillaboom's going to win this one. What were your notes from this match?
I actually had the most notes for this match in terms of vision, because a lot of them are just long notes. But for Derek and Pidge's match, I said Pidge decided to bring Toxapex last second. He did mention that instead of Mew. So that was pretty interesting. I don't know how the match would have gone without the toxic spikes, because Derek was very triggered by the spikes. But I predicted Pidge's entire team. I said I don't usually predict teams, but the one time I predicted a team was last week when I predicted Pidge's team. And the only thing I got wrong is that he brought Ninetales instead of Snorlax, which bringing Ninetales against a Drizzle team, who would have thought? So, you know, I think you guys have to give me that one anyways. And Derek had Pidge's whole team except for, and he also said that he was going to bring Snorlax instead of Ninetales, but he also thought that Mew was coming instead of Comfey, and ouch, that one hurts, because if he didn't predict that Comfey was coming at all, not only that, he didn't prepare for the possibility that it might come, or do any research, so big ouch to Derek there. Pelipper got one-shotted by Roar of Time, so his demise was started by his past MVP. You know, Dialga has been one of the past MVPs on the Kinglers. Derek brought Cinderace as a backup to end a kill streak. You know, the Comfey had the kill streak. Toxic Spikes ended the Cinderace, proving it had its worth early in the match, even though it was only put up once. Comfey outsped a lot of Muns on Derek's team, which of course was because of the priority moves, so it wasn't just outspeeding, it was priority moves as well. And Pidge kept on mentioning, is he going to bring out the Cinderace? Is he going to bring out the Cinderace? He kept on questioning it. And I think, personally, if he had brought out that Cinderace earlier when Comfey started causing some trouble, maybe if he Gigantamaxed it, maybe not, depending. But if he had brought it out earlier, I think he would have had a lot of Mons still available. Once the Comfey got taken out to take out the rest of his team, and he might have had a chance, but unfortunately it took him a while to pick up that maybe he should bring out the Cinderace and finish off that Comfey to at least have a chance to win. So sorry you, Derek, sorry that you ended up losing a match. But another thing that Matt wanted me to note about this match specifically is that in season 1 Matt was the loser of the championship match, and he ended up losing to me, aka losing his first match in the following season. Derek was the loser of the championship last season and also lost his first match this season, so I guess they're connected in that sort of way.
That is pretty dope. But yeah, Derek, you know, he can still battle. We know that. I mean, he was in the finals last year, so he's definitely going to stick around with those Kentucky Kinglers. But then the final matchup of the Mega Division, and this is your Iowa Incineroar going up against Texas Tyranitar. And boy, this was another exciting match to watch. I mean, all the battles were great to watch, no doubt about this. But it came down to your Vanillix, the MVP of the Dynamax division, surviving on 2 HP and taking out the rest of the team, obviously with the Snow Warning, Blizzard always hits, which just helps. And the final couple of Pokemon were weak to Freeze Dry, so it was just a matter of outspeeding them, and you did. And that's what happened. I didn't write down any notes for this one. The only thing I would mention, the Texas Tyranitar did a great job battling. The Heliolisk, it looked like it was a misclick on Allen's end, which that maybe could have factored in the battle a little bit more, considering how close it was. But I will let you talk on what were your notes. I mean, obviously you were excited, but also nervous. Because you were like, I don't know, like this Vanillix is going to outspeed it. And so I'll let you talk about your match with the Texas Tyranitar for a +1.
I just want to say, first of all, last season my record was 2-3 in the regular season, and I lost my first playoffs match. And there's only been one match this season so far, so I have won a total of 3 of the 7 matches I've participated in. And 3 of those matches, I have been told that I had the closest match in the EBL history. So, the Iowa Incineroar are a great team. That's all I want to say about that. 3 matches, I get told that's the closest match in EBL history. This one definitely is. Nobody's ever won with 1 Mon on 2 HP before. The only way that could be beat is if somebody won with a Mon with 1 HP and it was poisoned, and I don't even want to mention what else. So, I'll take that.
Hold on, I'm doing some math real quick, and you gotta do this, a little bit of that. I can confirm that winning with 1 HP is a little bit closer than winning on 2 HP.
Wow, that's freaking sick. Anyways, So getting into the actual match here, Slow King was used to wither down T-Tar, so everybody that might have said, hey, why does he keep the Slow King in, bro? Switch that Slow King out, you could use it for other stuff. It's got Shadow Ball, Rhea Nicholas being the threat you could have taken out there. And listen, I was excited by the fact that his Cheetar wasn't as much of a threat as I thought it would be, so I used the Slow King to wither it down a lot. Should I have done that? No. Did I end up losing? No. So let's carry on. Anyways, it could have been used for other things, yet not the most important mon on my team. While it could have been very useful, it wasn't the most important mon on my team, and the end Vanillix was the most important mon on my team. Believe it or not, it was the most important mon on my team. Celesteela was not utilized the best for me as it could have been. We really put a lot of work into Celesteela last week. Offline, Guanako and I did when planning my moveset. Unfortunately, the explosion that we had put on it, or the self-destruct, did not get to be used as well as we thought it would be, because Dracovish took it out before I could do that. Rhea Nicholas was a huge threat. Collapsed my lungs. Had me thinking I was going to lose.
Speaking of Reinculus, we were recording this right after your shiny race for that particular Pokemon. Did you end up winning that?
No comment.
Yes, another win for the Detroit Lux race as Max defeated Landon in a shiny race for Reinculus.
I had the better MVP this one. Anyways, T-Bolt Low Row. That's what it was. I talked to Guanako, I talked to Luigi, I talked to Offline. Multiple sources detect that Thunderbolt from the Heliolisk was a low roll, so RNGesus not only shines on me for shiny Pokemon, but also for moves, so that Thunderbolt being a low roll was pretty freaking lucky.
Yeah, I mean, you went from -3 to +1 because of that.
Yes. Alan predicted everything on my team but the Vanillux. I don't remember what he said that I was going to bring a set of Vanillux, but that's the second match this week where the Pokemon not predicted ended up being the demise for the person. And Lycanroc. I predicted Lycanroc for his team. I predicted his whole team. The only thing I got wrong was that he brought Seismitoad instead of Lycanroc. As you can tell, if he had Lycanroc, no sane person brings Lycanroc and doesn't put a Cellrock on it. A Cellrock is priority. If Seismitoad wasn't there, the last Pokemon that I defeated before I won, and it was instead of Lycanroc, which he probably would have used for sooner if it was Lycanroc, but a Cellrock priority, I would have lost. So a big reason why Alan didn't win is that he didn't bring the Lycanroc. But again, he didn't predict my Vanillix, so he probably wasn't thinking about bringing it for that reason. But if he had brought the Lycanroc, I probably would have lost. So, and the last thing I have is that Sandaconda was actually a misclick. He told me afterwards that it was a misclick. I thought maybe he was a little bit embarrassed by it and meant to, start the sand stream, and it didn't, so he just covered it up. But man, he actually was a misclick. I felt really bad. I was just like, how dare I accuse him of that? He was just trying to check its stats and he accidentally switched out to it. So sorry about that, Alan. Sorry that happened, but yeah, that's all I got for our match. GG, Alan. You will do great for the rest of the season, as I have mentioned before. Your Rhea Nicholas is a powerhouse. Stack Attacker will also do some damage, so you got a good season ahead of you. I wish you luck against Max.
And just to recap, we'll just quickly go over the standings.
Hold on.
No, you got a fun fact with Landon?
Another thing or two from Matt here. The first thing is that Derek and I are similar in a way because I bounced back from a tough playoff loss because Derek lost in the first round of the playoffs in Season 1 of the EBL. I did too, and we both had pretty awesome wins in the first week. I think that's all he wanted me to mention about there. I thought I had a couple stuff, but hey, that's another fun fact from your boy the Commissioner.
Hey, and you know what? I've been saying it for the last season and a half, really, was that I see a lot of similarities with you and Derek in that same way, so you guys are kind of on the right path. But to go over the standings really quick, in the Mega Division, number 1, Detroit Luxrays at +5. Number 2, Indiana Iggly Bluffs at +4. Blah, 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 blah. Number 3, Miami Dragonites at +3. Number 4, Akron Axews at -3. Number 5, San Diego Sylveons at -4. And Redwood Meows coming in last at -5. And in the Dynamax Division, there's a lot of chatter in here, so I have to scroll up. Nice one, Landon. We got the Essex Espions at +3, tying with TJ Gengar, who's also +3 for first first place. In third place, we got your team, the Iowa Incineroar, at +1. Fourth, Texas Tyranitar at -1, and then tied for fifth and sixth, the Kentucky Kinglers and the Atlanta Braviary at -3. So that wraps up week 1. Landon, are you ready to hop into the week 2 schedule and make some predictions?
Oh, yeah.
Alrighty, baby. Well, first up on the schedule, we got the married couple switcheroo. We got the San Diego Sylveons going up against the TJ Gengar. And this is going to be a tough one for the Sylveons, Landon. I mean, we saw how good Luigi is. We saw his big brain moves. We saw him take out the Kartana. We saw him do Trick Room Gengar. We saw him do so many things. That Volcarona, that more like Bulkarona, am I right? Taking that from Starmie. Oh, man, it is late. I need to go to bed. But, Landon, what are your thoughts on this matchup, and who is your pick? I'm going with the TJ Gengar.
Personally, I'm gonna have to look at their teams again because I basically memorized them at this point. But it's not a bad idea to double check. So if you look at San Diego's team again, we saw that Kyogre takes some hits. Of course, Kyogre is naturally bulky, so that's not a surprise. Leafeon, of course, I'm still afraid of because of how my match against Josh went last season. Psychic Fairy type, very good combo there for that Rapidash, and we got Chandelure, which can put in some work, Zoroark, and we know that Josh also had a very annoying Corviknight last season, so there's a lot of power on San Diego's team. And then you turn around and look at the TJ Gengars. Not the most combat for her team here. Of course, there is Xerneas being a fairy type, which is good against Goodra, and some other mods and such like that, but I do know that Luigi's team is very strong, as we saw, and Tara's team is very strong as well. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see that utilized to the best last week, but if I had to think about this directly, I'd probably give this one to Luigi as well, just because of how last week went. We got to see Luigi again, very, very close match with him and Matt. Not as close as some matches, cough cough, 2 HP, cough cough, but still a lot of work put in with Luigi. His team is super duper strong, so I know that he's going to put in a lot of work. But again, as we mentioned last week, if Tara turns this around, I would not be surprised, but I'm going to give this one to Luigi.
100%. I think this is definitely going to be a close matchup. I think the Sylveons might even take an early lead. I wouldn't be surprised at that. I mean, they got first blood last week, but I can expect maybe +2 or +3 early on. And then Luigi makes those necessary adjustments, I guess, in the second half adjustments at halftime. So we're both going with the Gengar. The next matchup, very exciting matchup for me to watch. I'm very excited to watch this. We got the Miami Dragonites going up against the Essex Espeons. Two teams that are undefeated right now. We saw what the Essex Espeons did. They have a great team. They have a lot of balance. I mean, they won a match pretty easily without Mew. And without a chunky boy in the Snorlax. So seeing those two potentially showing up in battle is going to be dope. But it is hard for me to kind of pick against the Miami Dragonites. I mean, there's another fun fact that you're about to say for Matt, but Miami Dragonites, let's just wait until next week for that fun fact. But I'm going to go with Miami Dragonites. How about yourself, buddy? I mean, both of these teams look really great. Both of these teams are built well. Both of these battlers are great, but I got to go with the Dragonites on this one. No disrespect to the Espeons. I'm not trying to pick against them every week. I love Pidge. I love the team. I just like the Dragonites a little bit better.
Yeah, this is hard for me to choose because, while, my default brain says pick Guanako, but there's also Pidge, who did really, really well last week. He's got a powerhouse of a team. He's voted as the strongest team in the league this season, the most threatening team. I mean, he's got a Alolan Raichu on it. How could you say otherwise? Mm-hmm. Anyways, the biggest threat on Guanako's team again is that Eternatus, and I think about it and I say, what weaknesses does Eternatus have? Well, Dragon does not resist Psychic, so it is weak to Psychic. I asked that last week, right? I'm still right about that.
It's weak to Psychic and Ground.
Psychic and Ground and Dragon and Ice. So
Ice, Ground, Psychic, Dragon. Whoo!
Perfect. So, not only is Alolan Raichu and Mew both Psychic type, as well as Orbeetle, I don't think he's going to bring all the Psychic types out of the wazoo just to combat the Eternatus, but I mean, it's still a big threat. Mm-hmm. He could put some Psychic moves on some other mons as well. I think there's going to be a lot of preparation to go into this for Pidge, and I definitely think he can pull it off. But again, I'm going to have to agree with you and go for the Dragonites just because of the way that his team is set up. I mean, if you look at it, not just focusing on the Eternatus once again, we got Zero, we got Garmanitin, which absolutely destroyed Season 1 and destroys Sword and Shield PvP to this day. Whimsicott, with what it can pull off. Excadrill is an amazingly strong mon. He's got the bulky Kanto starters. All 3 starters from Kanto are bulky, but if you just take a look at Guanako's team and, the man is good at drafting. Again, this is another match where I can see either competitor pull it off, but I definitely don't see anybody getting blown out of the water. But good luck to Pidge. I'm going to be voting for the Miami Dragonites this week.
Yeah, and I would pick the SBNs in a heartbeat as well, but I'm just going with the Dragonites. Third matchup, an interesting matchup. We got the Detroit Luxrays going against the Texas Tyranitar here. Both of these two have a little collaborative series happening right now, so definitely go check that out, of course, once you subscribe to their channels. We got the Detroit Luxrays against the Texas Tyranitar. Max versus Alan in this one. This one's going to be a tough one. We saw the Texas Tyranitar. You saw the Texas Tyranitar, and what can definitely happen here. But I think the key in this one, and we haven't seen this Pokemon do great in Season 2, didn't do that fantastic in Week 1, but this Roserade is going to come to party, of course, if Max brings up, because looking at Alan's team, a lot of weakness to grass, so I think the Roserade could come to party a little bit, so I'm going to go with the Detroit Luxrays in this one, but of course, you're in the league, you battled the Texas Tyranitar last week, so what are your thoughts on this matchup, and who's your pick?
So if you thought my team was a good combat for Alan's team last week, there's the Rhea-Nicholas, of course. The Rhea-Nicholas is the reason why I almost lost and probably should have lost in the end. But that's only because I didn't have a lot of combats for the Psychic type, and especially with the Trick Room. When you look at Max's team, not only does he have stuff that's super effective against the Ground and Rock type teams that the Tyranitar's team provides, you also have some combatants for the Psychic type and Trick Room and stuff like that. We got Mimikyu, which could Swords Dance until he decides to knock off the Disguise, and even still, like any Ghost type move that Max might provide would be super effective against it. We got the Galarian Moltres, not Yveltal, that could put in a lot of work. Salamence, not while it's not like the best against Rhea-Nicholas in terms of typing, it still could do a lot. I know that Shadow Ball fits on like most of the evolutions, so I know Espeon can learn it. There's a lot of things that Max can use to combat the Rhea-Nicholas, which to this day I still believe is the biggest threat on Alan's team, besides the Stack Attack. It still doesn't hold up to it in my opinion, but Stack Attack and Rhea-Nicholas both being brought, I can definitely see Alan putting the work with those two and pulling this off. But I'm going to have to hand this one to Max just because of how well he can do against the threats on Alan's team. But of course, Alan almost destroyed me last week and I almost lost. So, you never know what can happen in the EBL, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah, and especially like I mentioned with their collaborative series, the good friendship, both of these really want to win, so it could be as simple as potentially another misclick or maybe overthinking it or trying to get in the head of the opponent. So watch out for some mind games as well. But and just fair warning, folks, I wrote down all my picks before we started recording, did not share them with Landon, so if we're always on the same side. Sorry, I don't know what to say to that. But the fourth matchup...
Just take it in. Realize that these decisions are probably the best just because they're more ideal, and it's not that we're agreeing because we're friends and I've seen what he picked, but because these are probably the most obvious choices. Just saying. Yeah. And so now we're moving to your matchup, buddy. You got a matchup with Forsaken Aces Redwood Meowths. And this one is going to be a tough one, buddy. The Redwood Meowths are bulk city. Groudon, Dragonite, Lapras, Amoonguss, Stonjourner. These Pokemon can take some hits, buddy. And not saying your team isn't as bulky, but it certainly isn't as bulky. You do have some bulk meisters here with Celesteela, Tangrowth, of course, Lure Thickness. Johto and Slowking's always bulky. But you also have some great attackers as well. So this is a really tough matchup for me to predict. I'll let you go first, and then I'll tell you my prediction. So, I'm afraid of Ace's team. I'm more afraid of Ace's team than I am of Alan's team. And offline and I, as of recording this last night, we were prepping my team, getting movesets ready and stuff like that. And even he was having trouble. It's just like, oh, if we give this Pokemon this, there's still this Pokemon that can have this. And, you know, figuring out movesets is not the easiest thing. But when preparing for a team like this, it's also, it's probably harder at most. So it's not, Ace's team is not the easiest to combat, especially with my team. He's got like type coverage all over the place. He's got strong mons. Most of his team is like really competitively built mons. It's kind of hard to decide what to use in terms of fighting his team. So Max got really lucky with that Moxie's Dragon Dancing Salamence, obviously, but I don't have the kind of mon that can pull something like that off, so I'm gonna have to actually face Ace's team. So try to struggle for once, Max. Come on. But I can't vote against myself, so I'm gonna be confident in myself and say that I'm gonna win. But it's gonna be almost as close as last week's if I do pull it off. So I'm pretty nervous. Guanako and I start practice battling tomorrow, so we'll see. Because with Alan's team, every practice I did against Guanako, I won every single time, but we didn't expect the kind of things that ended up happening last week. So you never know. You can never prepare for a single match because you can't play a match. 2 matches cannot be played the same. And since, you know, there's another person behind the screen for the practice matches, even though we are battling the same team, there's no guarantee that he's going to bring that team, or if I'm going to play exactly the same, or if RNG is going to play the same. RNG is the biggest part of it, so I guess we'll just have to see how this match goes, but I'm going to have to give it to myself just because I'm me.
Yeah, I mean, I would pick myself as well, but I had your name written down, but then after a second look at looking at that Redwood Meowth team, I crossed off your name, and I'm going with Forsaken Aces Meowths, baby. That's who we're going with. We're going with the Meowths here over on Timmy B, so we're going opposite on one. Unfortunate that it is yours. But the next matchup we have, not max up, next matchup we got the Akron Axews going up against the Kentucky Kinglers. Kinglers desperately need a win, so do the Axews as well. I just think with the Rain team, I think this is a battle that Derek can get his feet wet, you know, kind of jump in, pun intended. I think he pulls out victorious. I mean, looking at the Axews team, the biggest threat right there is that Urshifu, as we talked about last week, as we talked about this week, as it took out a couple of Pokemon. But being the water type, you know, with the Rain team, might not bode as well, and we're going to have to get creative. I mean, Hippowdon as well, Blacephalon. I mean, Galvantula is definitely probably going to come slap Thunder on that, so it can always hit when the Rain does get set up. But I just like Derek's team a little bit more, and the key will be if he can take out that Galvantula. If he can take out that Galvantula, I think this could be an easy win for the Kinglers. So I'm going with them. Landon, how about you and your thoughts?
Yeah, I got to say the same. I was looking at his team before we did the roundup, and I just thought, you know, the first thing I look at, I don't even have to look at Derek's team. I'm just like, all right, let's see how many good against water types this person has. And I look at this team, and all I can really see is Galvantula. Of course, you can get some grass type moves on a couple of these mons. You can do as much as you can to combat a Drizzle team with this, but I think this might be a match where the Drizzle might be a little bit too much for the opponent. Iso, again, as we saw last week, did very, very good, but a lot of that went to the Urshifu, and Urshifu, I don't know its moveset exactly, but I'm sure I could learn maybe Thunder Punch, don't quote me on that, but there's not a lot that he can bring, and I don't know what team he's going to plan to bring against Derek, but I'm going to give it to Derek this week just because I think that Iso won't have a lot to do against him, but I mean, you know, the thing is that we don't have to keep on mentioning this because everybody has it in mind when they're going into a match, but you can't expect everything to go the way you think in VGC. So, you know, could Iso pull this off? Maybe. We'll see. This will be an exciting match to see. So, I'm going to give it to Derek, but Iso, do your best. That's all I got.
And the Urshifu can learn Thunder Punch. Just looked that up while you were talking.
Let's go.
But that's just one move, buddy. That's just one move. Non-stab. It definitely can do some damage.
One
And then the final matchup of the week 2, we got the Indiana Igglybuffs going up against the Commissioner's team, Matty Ice, the Atlanta Braviary, the part 2 of the 1-2 switcheroo, as I claimed it, with the married couple seeking revenge or trying to avenge their partner. This one is going to be a tough matchup, I think. I mean, both teams stack up pretty well. We saw the Igglybuffs. They have a great team. They got the other Urshifu. Ferrothorn's always annoying. They got Billy Mays. They got Nagandadel. They got Flygon. They got Primarina. But then you look at Matty Ice's team in the Atlanta Braviary, and you got, obviously, Kartana. But then you got Dragapult and Togekiss and Alakazam and, of course, Starmie. So this one's going to be tough because Bob is a battler. I mean, he's the one who pretty much coached Derek, and we saw those amazing battles between Derek and Matty Ice previously, so this is going to be a tough one for me to pick, but I'm going to go with the Braviary in this one. I think he has just a little bit of a better balance of being able to take some hits and being a little bit faster and delivering some hits. What about yourself, Landon?
This is another tough one because, again, I don't want to focus on the Kartana. But I mean, Kartana is just a starter of a mon, and if you don't start with it, I don't really see where it could come into play. Kartana, the only combats that you know, type wise that I see on the Igglybuffs here are Hawlucha and Urshifu. I don't see Urshifu being a starter. I can definitely see Hawlucha being a starter. How well can Hawlucha take down a Kartana, though? We know that Lucario one-shotted Kartana, but can a Hawlucha one-shot a Lucario? We know Urshifu can. If he decides to go with the Urshifu and risk that, I mean, I'm pretty sure that Kartana is faster than Urshifu, so we might have to see how that happens, but, I mean, it's kind of difficult to see. They're both good battlers. Of course, Bob's a really good one. Matt's been in the EBL for 3 seasons now. He's the commissioner, of course he has to be. So, I mean, they both have really solid teams. This is going to be a heck of a match. I can see this being match of the week, in my opinion, but I'm going to have to go opposite of you this time, Timmy, once again, and go with Bob and the Igglybuffs, just because I think that he's got a strong chance. Again, I should probably mention more the Kartana, because I don't want anybody calling me out for just focusing on the Kartana. But if you look at the Braviary here, I mean, I just look at Bob's team and I see combats for them. You know, what can take them down and stuff like that. And I would really have a smile on my face if I end up being wrong about this, but I gotta give it to Bob.
Gotta give it to Bob. So we're going to get opposite on 2 of them. One of them is yours, of course. So that kind of makes sense when you go up against a very good opponent. You're obviously going to pick yourself. But that's going to wrap up the Week 1 Roundup and the Week 2 predictions for the EBL, a.k.a. the Elite Battle League, a.k.a. the EBL. I am your host, ItsReallyTimmyB, joined by Infernomen, a.k.a. Landon, a.k.a. Infernomen. Any final words for the Roundup?
I can't wait to see how this one goes because I felt more confident about my choices last week, but this week is up in the air. I don't know whether I'm going to be right or wrong, so let's just see how it goes, and hopefully I come out on top.
Well, you know what? We got the Super Bowl this weekend, so let's have a super week of the EBL.
And I'm going to be going back to where I went to college to spend some time with my friends, so...
Ooh.
Friday night college. Use your imagination to figure out what that's going to be like.
There's going to be some juice, baby. Let's bring the juice this weekend. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button to like this video. Subscribe to not only this channel, but to all their channels as well. Help your boy Timmy B get to 1,000 subscribers. Come on, gang. We're like 30 away. Let's go.
And get me to 2K by my birthday. It's next
Shut up.
month.
No, don't let... 1K for me first, and then we'll worry about 2K. Alright, well, anyways, folks, that is Infernomen over there, and I'm ItsReallyTimmyB. We will see you in the next roundup. Enjoy all the battles this week, and peace out.
I can't wait to edit this.